Hello and welcome to Freight Logistics Hub podcast, where we discuss the historical developments of freight logistics in Kenya and East Africa. I'm your host, George Kidenda. I hope you liked my first podcast where I told you the story of how I became a clearing and forwarding agent. In my second episode, I want to share with you my experience as a marketing trainee, joining for the first time employment out of the University of Nairobi. The first company to employ me was Leopold Walford Shipping, a company that was registered in London in Great Britain. It was a non-vessel operating common carrier, meaning that even though it traded as a shipping line, it did not own any vessels. It did not own any aircraft or trucks. It traded by leasing space in containers, in ships, in aircrafts, and on trucks. It also issued its own bills of lading, but not as owners of the vessels. It went direct and negotiated direct with cargo owners. So I joined there as a marketing trainee. Fresh from the University of Nairobi, all that we've been talking about was the sales and marketing of goods. Very little was discussed about the marketing of services. So I got out, and in the first week that I went out, I was really surprised that there were certain terminologies that I had not come across. I was dealing, of course, with people who had been in the industry for a long time. Most of them serving as the purchasing managers, procurement managers, and this was their language as they traded internationally. So I went out. As I said, I'd spent quite a bit of time without doing any marketing until my boss came and told me to go out. So I went out. And as I went out, I was armed with rates. We were marketing, of course, sea freight and air freight. So I was given rates for air freight and given rates for sea freight. But little did I know that those rates were not enough. There were other certain factors that needed to be taken into consideration that I was not aware of. One of those factors which I became aware of was the currency adjustment factor. I was lost. I had given my rates, and I thought that was complete. The purchasing manager asked me about the currency adjustment factor, which I later on came to know thanks to my friends Joseph Karanja and Cyrus Mugwe. They explained to me that the currency adjustment factor was a ratio that was used by the airlines to calculate the differentials that occurred between currencies, so that they would be able to adjust their charges to cover any differential or fluctuations in currencies. So I came to learn about currency adjustment factor. The other terminology that I came across, again that I was not very much aware of, was the bunker adjustment factor, BAF. Currency adjustment factor was CAF. Now BAF, the bunker adjustment factor, was again a ratio used by the shipping lines to cover their differentials in the currencies as they moved with their cargo from port to port and to the final destinations. So there are certain ratios that I needed to be able to quote be able to tell them that this is the currency adjustment factor over and above the air freight, and this is the bank adjustment factor over and above the sea freight. The currency adjustment factor should apply to sea freight also. So this was completely new to me. But I thank God again that I had such good friends who were able to take me through it. The other thing that I learned was that it was not enough to quote just rates per kilo or per ton, because as you are all aware that goods have different types of how do I explain this? Some goods are voluminous, others are just heavy. You would have to consider the deadweight. It can be very small but very heavy. On the other hand, you can have goods that take a lot of space but are very light. So in that case, the transporters have to find a ratio that would work in such a way that they do not make losses as they transport your goods. So what I learned is that for air freight shipment, the ratio between weight and volume was that 1 kilo is equivalent to 6,000 cubic centimeters. This I had to know, and therefore that reason, for every quotation that I was going to give, so these are some of the questions that I would ask. What is the type of cargo that you are moving? 1. Is it voluminous, or is it going to be based on deadweight? 2. What are the dimensions? Because especially for aircraft, there are certain limits to the sizes that can get into an aircraft. Initially, when I started, we were still mixing conventional cargo with containers cargo. We were just introducing containers to East Africa. So I came to learn about the language of freight logistics. That you do not only consider the weight, you must consider the volume also. The other things you have to consider is it liquid or solid? And based on that, you would then be able to know the type of equipment that you need to transport those goods. Again, there are ratios between liquids as you carry them. All those things I came to learn. The other thing that I came to learn and I was not really aware of was that there was customs. There are customs services. There are customs people who processed goods through ports. All the years I knew that the cargo would come, but I didn't know how they were processed through into the country or out of the country. So this was the first time I was able to know what goes on at the points of entry of every country. That you have the customs services who levy duties and taxes on goods. We had never never really talked much about customs duties and taxes. We were basically discussing marketing of goods. But now I was going on the operation side, and discussing with the clients what would be the duty payable on a consignment. I've never learned how to pay to calculate the duty and the taxes. And so again, I would go back to the clerks to help me to work out what the duty would be, because some of those people wanted to get the services through what, again, I came to learn about, is that we could, as Leopold Watford Shipping, provide door-to-door service, meaning that we would be able to pick the cargo from the point of origin and deliver it to destination, picking it from your door, say in Kenya, and delivering it at your door in London. And that meant that I would have to know what are the Kenya air freight handling service charges that would go in the cost of pushing that cargo from Nairobi to Manchester, or picking it from Manchester and delivering it to door in Nairobi. Amongst the jobs that we did was also to move people. We were handling a lot of expatriates that are coming in and leaving the country. So I had to learn how to quote for household goods that were being picked from a residence, packaged, and shipped to final destination. I, again, am thankful to my friend Harrison Maina that I met while working at Express Kenya Limited, who are doing removals. So I would go out to the expatriate homes, be able to look at the furniture. I realized that there are people who can just look around the room and be able to give you very accurate estimates of the volumes of cargo that are in the home, to the extent that they would even be able to determine the right size of truck that would come and pick that cargo from the residence to Express, where they would then be repackaged and shipped in those days in crates and later on into containers. So there's so much learning as I joined this industry. I had to learn all these things all at the same time, because it depended on what I got when I went out for sales and marketing. Yeah, I would go to a place trying to solicit for imports or exports. Then someone says, "Do you also do removals?" And of course, we were not having a removal services, but of course, Express were there, Notco were there, and many other companies that were doing it. And so I had to know all these people and be able to work with them. They give me their rates put together with our rates, and then arrange for that cargo to be delivered. Another thing that I learned that I was not really aware, and I'm sure many people are not aware of, is that the fact that we would be able to give you an air freight airway bill for your shipment, for delivery from door to door to Manchester to Antwerp. Many people are not aware that part of that transport, although covered by an airway bill, is actually done by road. So again, I had to learn how to quote for that cargo. If you gave me that cargo that I was going to pick from Liverpool and deliver to Nairobi, or from Antwerp and deliver to Nairobi, then I would work with our fellow agents in those countries, get quotations of how to pick that cargo from the premises in Antwerp or in Liverpool, package it, load it on a truck to the nearest airport. We would then be able to get rates for air freight from whichever airport that we are going to use in Europe, Amsterdam, London Heathrow. We would then get the rest from there, work it out again per kilo, have the goods arrive here, and because we know we have the packing list and we have the values of the goods that are brought in, if they are commercial, then we are able to work out the duties and the taxes that are payable and give you an all-in rate that covers the picking up of your goods from Liverpool, packaging them, transporting them by road from Liverpool to London Heathrow, loading them on the aircraft, transporting it by air to Nairobi, and then we would be, through maritime forwarders, clear those goods out of customs and deliver them on a Leopold Wolford delivery order. On the other hand, if it was an export, then again our agencies or our own offices in those countries would be able to do that. So within a very short time, I was starting all sorts of cargo. I even began to start handling project cargo, because Leopold Wolford was a worldwide company. Some of the first shipments that I handled were for Japanese companies that were involved in telecommunication sector here in Kenya, and supplying to Kenya Post and Telecommunication and Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. So I now learned how again to manage project cargo, how those terms were again being applied. Again, here this is where now I came to learn about what we in this language we refer to the Incoterms. Many people in this country are not familiar with the Incoterms, because a lot of people just ask for quotations, and whatever quotations they are given is what they take. So, but the nature of the way that clearing and forwarding developed in this country, many people are not aware. So you would find that in most cases in Kenya, all importers want to import goods CIF and CIF Mombasa for shipments that come by sea, or CIF Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for those that come by air. But I think it is important for us to understand some of the disadvantages that we have experienced over time because of that practice. The historical background, of course, is that because we were trading with our former colonial masters, most of the decisions were being made in foreign lands. The companies that we are dealing with here were subsidiaries of companies that were incorporated overseas, and therefore management was centralized. to that extent, it was in the favor of the parent company to centralize costs. So as the cargo is being bought by their subsidiary in Nairobi, it was in their favor to control costs. And again, this is another area that we need to talk about, how to build costs and where you as an importer would be disadvantaged based on the terms of purchase, which we call the Incoterms. Let me give an example. When you buy goods, CIF Mombasa, from your supplier in Liverpool or your supplier in Hamburg, you are basically buying the goods plus all other attendant costs that would bring that cargo to Nairobi. Part of that cost is the local transport in the country of origin. Part of that cost is the customs clearance of that cargo for export in the country of origin. And part of that cost is the actual freight that is paid from the country of origin, either by air or by sea, to Mombasa or Nairobi if it's by air. In all those stages, your supplier is able to add their margins, so that if the rate was, for instance, 90 US dollar cents per kg, it could easily be sold to you at $1.20 per kg. If the road transport will say 50 cents per kg, it could easily be sold to you at 75 cents per kg. And so there's always that build-up that we pay for at this end because of the terms that we use to purchase goods. We give the advantage to the exporter on the other side. But the sad thing is that on the reverse side, we were also taught to sell FOB. Now, FOB means that I move my cargo up to the point that it's on board the vessel or on board the truck that is taking it out of the country. It means, therefore, that the buyer who is going to sell it on the other side is able to put his margins on the freight, an opportunity that I lose because I sell FOB, and is able also to put a margin on the insurance and on the FOB charges before he sells it out. So in either way, we found that the Kenyan business community, by not understanding the language of freight logistics, is in many ways losing a lot to foreign buyers and foreign sellers, to our traders here. And I think it is important that this is known, so that when you are an importer, it is good that you talk to your clearing and forwarding agent so that he may explain to you the implications of the decisions that you make. In many instances, what I've noticed is that, for instance, someone travels out of the country, sees a good car that he wants to buy or a machine that he wants to buy, buys and pays for it at that end. He says he wants it in Nairobi, he wants it in Mombasa. And in most cases, they are paying a premium for that service. Whereas if they saw that cargo and came and talked to their clearing and forwarding agent, if that clearing and forwarding agent is properly connected, he would be able to make some savings on the margins that we export to the foreign suppliers or the people that we supply, by just not understanding the Incoterms in the international commercial terms of trade. I hope that this episode will interest you more about freight logistics. There's a lot more to discuss. In the following episodes, we will now go and explain every Incoterm and how it applies to us, where it applies and where it does not apply. We'll also be able to talk about the importance of knowing the duty and taxes that are applicable on the goods before you come with it. I'll end by telling a story of a situation that I found myself in on the floors of the National Treasury. I had gone there to process some papers, and I met an elderly man, very bitter, in the corridors of the Treasury. His problem was that he had traveled out of the country, and while there he saw a car that he liked, asked for the price. He felt that he could afford that price, and he paid for the vehicle and asked the seller out there to ship it out to Mombasa. The bills of ladings were sent to him. He didn't know that there was the role of a clearing agent or that there was customs at all. So when he got his bill of lading, he made his way to Mombasa, only to be told that he could not handle the process of clearing that car because he's not a clearing and forwarding agent. He's not a customs certified licensed agent to process those goods. So he needed a clearing agent to help him process his car. When he found the clearing agent looked at his documents and worked out the duty and taxes that were payable on that car before he could take it. The clearing agent also worked out what the port charges would be. This is totally new to the old man. And he had spent the money from the harvest as a farmer, and now he could not take his car. So he came to the treasury to find out why he was not able to take out his car. And he was very bitter with the government, that the government is not supporting the old people. The problem was ignorance. The problem was that many people who travel out of this country take things for granted. They are just as clueless as I was when I left the University of Nairobi to join shipping. And for that reason, a lot of people have burnt their fingers out of their first trips out of the country. I would appeal to those who are watching this video to share this fact with all and sundry, that good clearing and forwarding agents are your friends. They are actually your defenders. You ignore them at your own risk. So choose well when you want to work with a clearing and forwarding agent. That brings me to the end of the second episode, and I look forward to sharing more with you, even as I now prepare to bring in the first episode of one of our very fast local people to start a transport company. We will be hearing from my friend and mentor, Mr. Samshuddin Khosla of Coast Hauliers and Highway Carriers.